So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sheldon Levy. I'm the president of this great university, Ryerson University, and I'm with my dear friend, Teriano. And why don't you introduce yourself, Teriano, to this wonderful audience?
So I'm Teriano Lesancha. I am a Masai from Kenya. I come from a village in southern Kenya known as Lodaria. Kenya is East Africa.
What we have is to share with you a story, and let me give you the punchline of the story. The story is, as you will see, how did Teriano get from her village to Ryerson, and what is the importance to her community by her graduation? So let's begin our story. So first of all, on the right-hand side, we're not going to tell you what that picture is about until the end, but Teriano, why don't you share with the audience the beginning of your story?
So I was born in Lodaria in southern Kenya, and the day I was born, I was booked for marriage. So I wasn't going to go to school at all. I'm among the first people in my village to go to school. So a miracle happened, and somehow I got to go to school. But today I'm just saying we don't have to rely on miracles for education to happen.
So the first part of the miracle, if I could put it that way, was Teriano, like all Masai girls, was booked or given at marriage, and I think it was when you were to be 12 years old?
Yes, when I was in grade 8.
When you're grade 8, and you were supposed to be married off to a man as his third wife.
I was going to be a third wife, yes.
Third wife. So you got to begin to get the picture of a culture that would have Teriano at 12 years old, married off, and she starts her journey. For those that are wondering what this picture is about, we promise to get back to it before we're over. Yeah. So maybe you could just share with the audience the picture on the left and the picture on the right.
So the picture on the left, that's Lodaria. So you can see the trees and you can see the goats grazing. That's the way from Nairobi to my village. And that is Ryerson University in Toronto, the picture on the right.
So your village, no water, no electricity?
We don't have running water. We don't have electricity.
So
it's a world as it was made.
It's quite a distance. But in fact, when we talk, the challenge, as I first saw it, was one of geography. But you began to share with me that it wasn't geography, it was culture. And perhaps if we went to the next slide, you could share with the audience what we're looking at now.
So that's where I grew up in. That's my mom's house on the right. The women build houses, so my mom built that house. And then that's a kitchen on the right. The kitchen and everything is there. So when I was young, when I was going to primary school, I would try to study there. So I used a lamp that uses paraffin. And sometimes my mom didn't have money to buy paraffin. And I can study, or I can do my homework, and then I go to school and I get beaten by the teacher because they didn't understand why I didn't do homework. And then I have to compete in national exams with kids all over the country, some who have access to space and electricity to study. So that's where I grew up in. That's my home.
I remember seeing one hut in the village that had a tin roof.
We'll get to that in the end.
We'll get to that story later.
Yeah.
But this part of the story is that not only were you booked for marriage, but not only were you in a village and in that house with no electricity, no running water, but you had to compete with your grades with those young people that were privileged or more privileged in Nairobi. And just the fact that you came from that village, that house, gave you no advantage at all.
No, it didn't matter. The exam is the same. And in Kenya, we have national schools, we have zonal schools, we have provincial schools. So your marks take you to the best school or to a not so good school.
So from what we have just seen, we end up with a graduation ceremony, not only at Ryerson, but we went off to your village and with generators for the electricity. And perhaps you share with us why it was so important that we all went back to the village for your graduation as well.
This was very important for me, my family, and my village, because I am the first girl to get university education, and I'm actually the first person too. So it was the first degree we got in this village, so it was important to celebrate it. So this day was an inspiration for other young people to know that they can achieve their dreams, no matter what. And for my community, for the community elders who didn't support education, to know that we can have our culture, but we can have education too, because in the current world, we need it. To be able to do well, we need education right now. So that ceremony there was to celebrate education.
Well, for our guests in the audience, I have to say that when I came to the village and I knew it would be a different event, given that we had to bring in a generator and we had bagpipes, I guess the first time ever heard in your village, I'm sure. But what I was shocked about was how many people showed up. And not only how many, but who also showed up. Perhaps you could just share what was the enthusiasm of that day and how people came to your village, the numbers.
This ceremony was attended by 1,800 people. I did not expect that as well. Neither did my parents. We just thought we were going to have a ceremony, maybe the most 1,000 people. But so many people came.
And they had to walk for hours?
Some of them walked. Some people came from even Nairobi and other parts of the country. We didn't expect. So it just turned out to be this big celebration.
But I remember sitting while we were in the celebration, and I looked up into the sky and I said to Mary, who was with us, "Who's coming in now?" as we were seeing helicopters land. And the picture on the right there is a few people who landed. And now we have to remember, this is the first time in your village there's been cars. Now there's helicopters. And now, who else turns up here?
So here, the woman on the left is the Minister of Higher Education, and the man on the right is a presidential candidate. So this also turned out to be a political event. So we had all these politicians fly in. We had a lot of media. We had people from all over the country, and my dad just told me, I never had helicopters in my home, and all these cars, what's going on? But he was very impressed.
So we're sitting there. You have to picture this in what I would say is the middle of nowhere. No offense, but all of a sudden, there's 1,800 people, young boys sitting in trees watching the ceremony, helicopters coming in. Presidents coming in, ministers coming in. Just shows you a politician will not miss an opportunity. There was newspapers there. There was
especially in Kenya.
Even in Kenya. Yeah. And then in the middle of all this, there was another guest who came in.
Oh, the warriors. So that's a Masai warrior. You probably all read about Masai warriors and you've heard about them, but because right now the Masai culture has been so commercialized, sometimes you don't know who is a real warrior and the fake warrior. So these are the real warriors. They never get to go to the city, they're in the bush, but they protect the community. So they also came. I didn't expect to see them. They showed up as well. So one of my brothers said to the warriors, I need to take you and take a picture near the helicopter because you and helicopters never meet. And it's true, they don't.
So you get some idea of the events in the village to celebrate the convocation. But I remember turning a corner, and this was actually my photo. And in some ways, regardless of the happiness, begins to tell the story about why education is so important and the foundation that you have set up. Share the story, Teriano.
That's a picture of myself, my friend, and my mom. So my friend came to see me, and so we hugged, and she was crying, and then everybody was asking what was wrong, and she just, started saying she was happy for me, but she remembers when we were in the same class in grade 6. So what happened is my friend was married off when she was in grade 6, and I went to school. So now we went different paths, and then we come and meet, and we're living totally different lives now. And so she said a phrase in Masai that means, she just said, we used to wear the same cloth, meaning we used to have the same life, but we don't have it anymore. So all I said to my friend is we will work hard to make sure that your children can have a better life. So this was a very emotional moment for me too.
And you're setting up a foundation now, and it is to provide the support for her children and the others' children in the village to be able to go to school.
Yes, so that's why I do what I do. So now we've set up a foundation to support young people in my community to access education, because it's something else. You can be smart, but then you don't have the resources to go to high school. High school is not free, and then you don't have the resources to go to university. I want these young people to be able to access this, because they're the future of our country.
Well, this is a very special picture. For the audience, the one in tears on the right is my wife, Tracy, but everyone was in tears. It was at this moment when the Minister of Education said to me, she never thought she would live as long to see what then happened. So I'll paint the picture for you. Teriano addresses her community in a speech, and then what happened next?
So I speak to my community, and then we launched the foundation that day. And then these community elders, all the names there are community elders who came to donate their cows toward the foundation. This was very special because it was emotional for all of us, because I didn't expect anything like that. So I just see people walking in front and wanting to donate a cow, because in our culture, a lot of our money is in livestock. So they were giving their cows so that we can use to to support education. And so even the man who I was supposed to be married to came to give a cow. So that was very, very special. We ended up having 16 cows by the end of the day.
So as the minister said to me, it was the very first time ever in the Masai culture that the economy of value, which was the herds or the cows, had been transferred to education for their children. And this was a very, very special and emotional moment.
It was very, very special, yes.
But another special moment happened when your parents, who never left Ladario, came to Toronto. I remember your father, through translators, I asked your dad, I said, what was the strangest or the most interesting part about being in Toronto? And he said to me, well, translated, I got into a box and I ended up in the sky.
The elevator.
The elevator.
Yes.
What other stories can you share about?
Technology was very, very hard for my parents. And when I came to Toronto a few years ago, like 5 years ago, I used to struggle with the same things, but now I'm so used to them and it's part of my life, and I forget that my parents don't know these things. So I got into the revolving door, and both my parents get in with me. And then I'm trying to push it and it doesn't go. I'm like, what's wrong? And then I see both of them squeezing when we're all together. And so that was technology was one that shocked them. But to see my parents in Toronto, it was very, very special to see them come attend my graduation here. And then I took them to Niagara Falls, and my dad sees the water and said, we need some of this water in Kenya. I don't know how we can get the water there. Maybe somebody can figure that out. And then we went to the CN Tower, my dad said when he saw the CN Tower first, I think I can see my home on top of that tall building. And then we said, okay, we'll go there and we'll see the home. And then we get there and he's like, I'm scared.
I remember when I was in your village, your dad was wearing a Toronto t-shirt and other people were obviously asking him questions, and he was now the expert of Toronto, Ontario,
yes,
and Canada.
He was answering all the questions about Canada, not just Toronto. Everybody was asking questions. They're not even asking me. They were asking my dad, who only came here for a few days. And he was very happy to tell them what a different world it was, even the plane, and how whenever the plane he doesn't feel any moves, he thinks it's finished gas or something. Something's wrong. Yeah.
So we're back to the picture we started with, and we promised everyone we would share the story behind it. And why don't you share the story of this picture?
So when I went to school and I started working, I helped build my mother's house, a better house, because I told you I grew up in that Masai hut where when it rains, the house leaks at night through. So it's not comfortable, because anytime it was raining, my mom would walk out of the rain and try to cover the house so that we're comfortable. While I was a child, this bothered me a lot, and I wanted to change that. So I got a chance to change that by building her this house. And then I got her couch, and my mom, like all moms, she matched the couch, the floor, and the cat is having a good time there, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, I would also say that when I was there, the miracle that I saw was not only did you get from where you started to where the degree at Ryerson was, but the miracle that the community saw was that you came back.
Yes.
And you came back to make a difference to that community. And I thought I would share with the audience my lesson. I learned many there, but I wanted to share the following with you. I said to the Minister of Education, when in our province we say we want 70% of young people to have a post-secondary education, I sort of understood it, but didn't really take it as a profound statement. But then I began to realize, when I was with your community, and could imagine that in every country there's marginalized communities, that in fact the way I began to see it was that the world was like this big stadium, and everyone is sitting in the stands. The world is sitting in the stands, and then someone comes to the playing field and yells out in a big microphone that says, everyone who has an education, please come down to the field, as we are going to set the rules for the way the world works. And your community, and so many of the other communities that are marginalized, sit in the stands while everyone else comes to the field. Mm-hmm. And I guess your dream now is that your foundation has your community coming to the field.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.